here they are. What's up everyone? I'm Sander, but most of you will know me as Super Nifty. Today I'm going to show you how I designed and 3D printed this chess set. Stick around until the very end because I'll hook you up and I'll show you how you can join in on the fun too. As with all of my projects, I started out in Gravity Sketch VR. Many designers think sculpting in VR isn't up to standard yet, but I disagree. Sculpting in virtual reality is really fast, it's really intuitive, it's fun, and it seriously sparks my creativity like nothing else. So I wanted to create a chess set that reflects my art style but also feels timeless. By the way, I streamed this entire process live, so I'll link those in the description below. I figure I'd start with the pawn. I drew inspiration from my love for cute, impish, devilish characters. I also love to make hooded characters. I think it's 1000's work that originally inspired me to do this. With a few tweaks, including those cool arrows and a Cyclops twist, our concept started to take shape. The bishop was a no-brainer, with a pronounced hood and a book to channel some dark wizard vibes. Now onto the rook. I wanted to make a statement, so I went for a giant mouth design that exudes dominance. At first I wanted him to be a hooded creature as well, but I ended up scratching that. Then I gave him diagonal teeth, which looked a bit better, but still not 100% what I wanted. And I ended up actually putting the teeth horizontally all around the top to make him look powerful, like he towers over the pawns. The king and the queen were actually really difficult to get right. I started over more times than I can count, and I ended up playing around with the crown, with combining different types of crowns with horns. The king got a bigger crown with horns on the inside, and the queen got awesome spiral horns with a smaller crown in between. The knight, oh boy, at first I went back to the idea of making an impish figure dressed up as like a horse, but I just couldn't get it to click. So I went full dragon mode. I also added a kind of lead to hold up its head, because I knew I wanted these to be fully 3D printable, so the leads will serve as a kind of support. For the people who aren't obsessed with 3D printing yet, 3D printing usually works horizontally from bottom to top. Every new layer vertically needs to have something supporting it underneath. Otherwise, the material will just end up floating in space and gravity will just pull it down. So usually people add these 3D printed structures underneath that are removed afterwards to give the floating part some support. But those support structures often leave little imperfections on your prints. So I really like it when people design 3D printable models that are specifically modeled to not need any supports. There's a few excellent examples of this that almost every new 3D printing nerd has seen by now, I think. Just because they're so easy to print and they always come out crispy clean without those supports. I wanted my chess pieces to also be like that. That's why I added the lead for the knight. Additionally, I made sure to always have 3D printing in mind when I was modeling these. To make sure they had no overhang at an angle larger than like 40-45 degrees. The bottom of the teeth, for example, they would definitely always have needed support, but I make sure there was like a slight outward angle on the teeth so that they could be 3D printed without. Then from Gravity Sketch, I exported each chess piece as an IGES file, and then I went into Fusion 360 and gave them a better, more uniform base. I 3D printed them on my Elegoo Mars 3 Pro resin printer. I also tried printing them on my Prusa FDM printer, and it does work, but the details just ended up looking so much better with the resin print, so I definitely recommend that. Afterwards I washed them, I blow dried them and I cured them, and after that they were pretty much good to go, and they looked amazing. Now, painting. Here's a little secret. I consider myself an artist, but I'm not exactly Michelangelo when it comes to painting. The set already looked amazing with just gray resin, so all the details came out great, so I thought I could actually get away with printing them in black and white without needing to paint them. But I quickly noticed that a lot of the details got lost, so I did need to do something. Then I remembered this technique a friend of mine likes to use to highlight the details in his Warhammer miniatures. It's called dry brushing. It's this technique where you basically rub 90% of the paint out of your paintbrush before going to town on your miniatures. This way it gets dry paint on like the outside of your miniatures, on like the details, And the inside, it stays nice and dark, so it gets a little contrast into the miniature. It makes them look like they're a bit worn down and you can see the details better. It's awesome. I highly recommend this if you don't have the patience to sit down and paint for days, or if you're not very good at painting like me. It's really easy to do and the payoff is great. So, if you want this chess set for yourself, I actually have a surprise for you. Introducing my brand new Patreon. Here's the deal. I'll be dropping monthly 3D printable art toys, miniatures and other fun stuff for you guys to enjoy. Plus expect some behind the scenes content, more in-depth tutorials covering everything from VR modeling to 3D printing to even NFTs. And guess what? Patrons get full commercial freedom to sell 3D prints of my designs with my support. So that means that if you're itching to get your hands on my chess set or any other of my designs in a physical way, but you don't have the time or the resources, you can always hop over to my Discord, where there will be a whole community of talented 3D printers and 3D artists to be ready to bring these pieces to life for you. So that's about it. Like and subscribe, and yeah, consider supporting my work on Patreon.